If I could change it or take it back, I would.
If I could change it, or if I could take it back, I would.
These are the words of famous TikToker Isabella Guzman, the 18-year-old who left many in disbelief after the state in which her mother's body was discovered during the crime scene. TikTok always has a way of bringing up old stories from the past and turning them into memes. It doesn't matter whether they're songs from the 2000s or the revival of Twilight. This is precisely what happened in the case of Isabella Guzman. This 18-year-old girl who was found guilty of executing her mother in 2013. There were many viral videos of Isabella on TikTok when some of the users decided to make funny videos of her bizarre behavior in court, which many found to be quite unusual. But behind the weird behavior in viral videos, there was a real-life tragedy that was so brutal it was pretty hard to believe. Isabella was born and raised in Aurora, Colorado, where she lived with her mother and stepfather. Her birth father divorced her mother when she was still a young child. Despite that, they still maintained a civil relationship. The two even bought a photography studio together in which they did portraits. Yoon-mi Hoi, Isabella's mother, would sometimes work up to 12 hours a day just to make ends meet. Most people saw her as a really hard-working lady. However, Isabella was never grateful. She did not appreciate her mother and how hard she worked to support them. Instead, Isabella would continuously ask for things that her mother couldn't afford. Most of the people who knew the family knew that Isabella seemed to be troubled and that she had a destructive personality. Although Isabella's grades in school were average, she had a strong dislike towards school. Eventually, just a few weeks before her final exams, she decided to drop out. To say the least, her parents were very disappointed when she did this because she was so close to graduating, and all the past years she suffered were literally wasted. Isabella's behavior got worse when her mother started seeing another man called Richard. Isabella resented her mother for this, mainly because she felt like her mother was replacing her father. Isabella's behavior and treatment towards her mother became so bad that she was sent to live with her father, Robert Guzman, for some time. However, the same mistreatment continued once she was reunited with her mother. Unfortunately, their relationship never recovered, and in the weeks leading up to her execution, the relationship only worsened. One day, all hell broke loose as Isabella was having a heated argument with her mother. Isabella snapped and yelled at her, and at some point even spat in her mother's face. Isabella's mother developed a fear towards Isabella. Together with Richard, they went straight to the police station to report the incident and disclose her fear towards her daughter. It was so severe that Isabella sent a message to her mother with the words, "You will pay." With the progressing violence from Isabella and everything that she was doing, her parents decided to finally call the cops. When they checked on the family, they spoke to both Isabella and the mother. They then warned Isabella that since she was 18, she was of legal age to be kicked out of the house, which would result in her becoming homeless. They thought that this would be enough to make her change her behavior, but they were wrong. Isabella did not say much to the cops. After the cops left, she locked herself in her bedroom where she stayed for the entire night. Imagine yourself having such a fearful relationship with a sibling in your family, and to make matters worse, having to stay with them under the same roof. What a nightmare. Yoon-mi and Richard were both Jehovah's Witnesses, a branch of Christianity that is really strict. They don't celebrate holidays such as Christmas or even birthdays. Isabella claims that she was abused by her parents when she was young. She says that this is why she was so disrespectful to them.
I was abused at home by my family for many years. My parents are Jehovah's Witnesses.
She also stated that the abuse only got worse after she decided that she no longer wanted to be a Jehovah's Witness when she was only 14 years old. Although Yun-Mi and Richard were Jehovah's Witnesses, it is yet to be confirmed whether the abusive claims Isabella made towards her parents were true. After the cops visited, Yun-Mi decided to go to work for the rest of the day to put some space between her and her daughter. On the other hand, Richard spent the day at home with Isabella, who refused to come out of her room. This was until around 8:30 p.m. in the evening. Yun-Mi came home around 9:30 p.m. and told her husband that she would take a shower. Richard watched TV as he ate some McDonald's that she had brought home. After a short while, Richard heard some thumping and banging coming from the upstairs bathroom. This was accompanied by Yun-Mi yelling out his name. When he finally reached upstairs, he got a glimpse of Isabella and her mother in the bathroom before Isabella slammed the door shut in his face and locked it from the inside. At this point, he immediately knew that his wife was in great danger. He rushed downstairs, grabbed his phone, and called the cops. When Richard went back to investigate what was going on, there was a pool of blood leaking from under the bathroom door. It was just silent. He got closer to the door and managed to hear her last words, which were Jehovah, which means God. What happened next seems like it was a scene straight out of a horror movie. When Isabella opened the door, she held the knife used to execute her mother. Covered in blood, she strolled past Richard as if he was not even there and just left the house. By this time, Yun-Mi had sadly passed away. When the police arrived at the house, they found Richard trying to give her CPR. The police counted 79 stab wounds spread out over her face and neck. There was also a baseball bat lying in the bathroom, which is said to have been used to beat the mother before or after she passed away. Isabella was nowhere to be seen or found. When the cops tried to track her phone, they were unlucky as she had already switched it off. Luckily, it was not long before Isabella was arrested in a parking lot the following day. It was after someone saw her and tipped off the police. When Isabella was taken to court, she was charged with first-degree murder. And since she was already 18 years old, she was tried as an adult. This meant that she was applicable for the death penalty. However, things only get wilder from here. Isabella was eventually found innocent, even though she was clearly guilty. During her trial, Isabella was examined by a doctor, and it was found that she had schizophrenia. This is a mental illness that causes people to hallucinate and have delusions. The doctor said that Isabella believed she was killing a woman named Cecilia and not her mother. The doctor said Isabella thought she had to execute this woman in order to save the world. This really turned the tables for Isabella, and she pleaded innocent due to insanity. The court accepted her plea, which rarely happens. She was sent to a psychiatric hospital to properly treat her mental illness. This is where Isabella is to this date, though she claims she is ready to rejoin society. In an interview in November 2020, she said that she was okay and no longer mentally ill. She even stated that it was not really her when she executed her mother.
I was not myself when I did that, and I have since been restored to full health.
Do you think that Isabella should be allowed to rejoin society?